Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have some recommendations of books that you would want to read if you just desperately want to cry. If you are feeling emo and you want something that will just hit you in the tear ducts, I have some recommendations for you. So if you are new to my channel or you don't know this about me, I don't really love sappy romances. I don't love like deeply emotional on that level. I'm more of like an anxiety reader, people with very dark pasts and things like that, but I don't love the more like characters have cancer and like those sorts of things. But the books that I have on this list are some books that I for sure cried or at least teared up at, that I think would be a fantastic read to pick up if you are looking for something to just hit that like sweet spot. So the first recommendation that I have for you is Steadfast. And this is the second book in the series, and you can read it as a standalone. You do see the hero in this one in the first one and kind of a little bit of his story, but nothing that you can't pick up in the second one. But this is about Jude, and he is just recently out of rehab. He now has to go back to his hometown and be around all of the people that he knew when he was doing drugs. He knows where all of the drug dealers are, that sort of thing. And in addition to that, his father is an alcoholic and he is sort of running their family business into the ground. So Jude immediately is going back into this town with a lot of temptation and a lot of burdens on his shoulders. In addition to that, he was involved in an accident while he was high that killed his ex-girlfriend's brother. They were high school sweethearts, and he thought that he was hiding his addiction from her, but she really knew all along. One fateful, mysterious night, there is an accident, and so he kind of becomes a pariah. Her father is the sheriff of the town, and everybody knows what happened, so they kind of don't really trust him. They just kind of think he's good for nothing. And so he comes back to this town and he meets up with our heroine again, and this is kind of a second chance. And our heroine is dealing with a lot as well. Her father has slowly become more abusive, and since the death of her brother, her mother has very much retreated, and she is left in the caregiver position for her mother. And so she's slowly seen all of these dreams that she had for herself out of high school dwindling away. And so she is living in this town, and her and Jude meet up at a food bank, and they kind of rekindle their relationship from there. It is an incredibly emotional read. Jude is dealing with a lot. He's kind of always on the cusp of feeling like he's going to relapse and dealing with the emotional burden of the things that has happened, but also not wanting to reveal some truths about his past that would relieve a little bit of his burden, but maybe burden some other people in his life. So this is a hard read. It is emotional, and it feels very gloomy and suffocating as you're reading it, but I think it's well worth it. I love the characters. I think Jude is just one of those characters that like punches you right in the gut. So if you are looking for something that sounds like that, it's a good read. Then I have Eleanor and Grey. This is by Brittany C. Cherry. She is my go-to author if I want something a little bit emotional or a lot of bit emotional, and her bread and butter is kind of second chance. In the start of this, they were childhood friends, and something happens in the heroine's life that kind of ends in catastrophe, and she is forced to move away, and this sort of ruins their friendship slash budding relationship that they had going. 10 years later, she comes back into the hero's life because he has recently lost his wife and he needs a nanny for his children. The hero is dealing with a lot due to the loss of his wife, whom he loved very much. He's dealing with taking care of these children when he doesn't really know how to take care of himself, and all of the family baggage that he had kind of accumulating since we met him when he was a teenager. And the heroine is dealing with similar things. She has a lot of baggage from her family, a lot of loss and grief and disconnection from the people that she loved. And the most beautiful thing about this on the hero's end was seeing him learn to fall in love with being a father and learn that his children need him and that he can be a good father. And it was also equally amazing to watch the heroine kind of find a loving family, which is not something that she has ever really experienced before. So next up on this list, we have The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. This is the first book in her Elements series, and this book broke me. So in the beginning of the book, we have two different scenes. We see both our hero and our heroine losing their respective spouses, whom they both loved very much. And the hero actually loses his daughter too. So we skip ahead a couple of years, and we see both our hero and our heroine just entrenched in these feelings of guilt, the survivor guilt, the grief that they're unable to kind of come out of, the hero especially. And the hero has kind of become known as this prickly man by people in town. No one really wants to interact with him. And the heroine has several run-ins with him, and so does her daughter. And this kind of sparks a relationship between the two of them and a relationship between him and her daughter. And it starts out with them kind of replacing their significant others with each other. We see scenes of them kissing and things like that, but they're seeing their spouse while this is happening, and then it slowly evolves from there. This is absolutely heart-wrenching and beautiful. The best books I've read about grief and loss, and like starting over, because you're seeing both of your characters coming to terms with their loss, but also the fact that there is life beyond loss and beyond grief, and that it is okay to love again. And it's truly beautiful. And then the last recommendation that I have for you is Love Her or Lose Her. This is the second book in the Hot and Hammered series, and this might not be as emotional for everyone, but it was emotional for me. This is a second chance, which I'm realizing that 3 of the 4 books on this list were second chance, but this is a second chance between Dom and Rosie, and they are kind of in a non-communicative marriage. And in the beginning of the book, Rosie goes to Dom and says, listen, our relationship is kind of loveless, and it feels like the only time we ever connect, or any time I have any of your attention, is when we are having sex. And so Dom says, I don't really want us to separate, so whatever you want to do, we'll do. And she says, okay, well, we will go to marriage counseling, and they do. And the reason that this is so particularly emotional for me is I related very, 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 very hard and personally to Dom. Dom is an alpha male. He was raised in a very don't show your tears household. In addition to that, he is a veteran who has been deployed and he has seen things. And so he is just your kind of stereotypical wounded alpha male. I have been raised around that mentality my whole life. Every male in my family is basically like this. So it was incredibly personal and emotional for me, but just to see the way that Dom loves Rosie and the way that he kind of opens up and learns to learn about love languages and her love language and what he needs, but what she needs as well, and just learn how to take care of himself and take care of his wife as well, who he loves very much, was just absolutely beautiful. And it just tugged on all of my heartstrings, and I loved it so much. It was fantastic. Also, the marriage counselor in this is hilarious. So highly recommend, if you don't pick up any on this list, pick up this one. So those are all of the recommendations that I have for you that will probably make you cry. Leave your comments down below on any of the books that I mentioned in this video. If you've read them, if you are going to check them out, I would love to know. Other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in